All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Adrian. I'm going to be telling you about a few different things that I should have no business building, but because AI I can, and because of the tools that I'm using, I can. I think that there's a lot that I want to cover. I hope that there's enough time. If you do want to interrupt, you can, and just ask a question. But I'm going to have to keep the answers short, otherwise it's going to become an hour talk. It's only 15 minutes. Okay, so there's going to be three different projects that I'm going to talk to you about. The first one is one that's really cool. So with this, I had a problem where I had a website that looked really horrible and I wanted to modernize it. Let me show you what that website looked like. I have to go out of this. So this is the website here, right? It's called iLeaf. Basically not very interesting other than the fact, and you can see they immediately display your pop-up. It looks like it came from the 90s. And yeah, so I had this website, I want to modernize it, but how do I do that? Okay, so the first thing that, I don't know if you've heard about it, but there's this new thing called MCP, which is called Model Context Protocol. In essence, what it is it gives your LLM tools that it can use to navigate the world or to do random things. In this case, what I wanted to do was I wanted to get all the content that's on this website, and I wanted to then put it into basically a requirement document, and from that requirement document will then generate a website within half an hour. So it will take half an hour's work, but obviously for the sake of this talk, I will speed it along. Okay, so what do you do first? So I'm going to start off here, and I'll just start a new chat so you can see how it's running. So you have to download Claude onto your laptop, and then you have to enable the MCP servers. There's lots of support out there on how you can do it. It's a bit tricky, but it's worth the effort. So basically, if you read the prompt, it says, I want you to look at this website. I'm the owner. This is to tell Claude that, hey, I'm allowed to scrape this website. Sometimes you have to navigate around things. And your goal is to gather all the content, and then I will rebuild the site. So basically, what it will then do is that when it starts, okay, cool. So now it's going to ask me for permission. So Playwright is basically an automation tool. People use it to write end-to-end tests for their websites, but in this case, you're allowing Claude to be able to navigate the site. So here we can see that it's going to then open up the web page. And here you see it opens it up in an incognito instance of Chrome. And it's now looking at this website. So sometimes I just close certain things, and because it's going to keep looking at this website, I'm going to help it find the right thing. And so now it's going to say, okay, I want to create a screenshot. So it's going to go take that screenshot, take that thing, and then use the AI vision to look at what the website looks like. And then you can see here, it's grabbing all the visible text. And then just for the sake of time, I'm going to go to the other one. But you can see it will go through all of these steps. So here you can see get visible text, get visible HTML. And now it basically goes and it's written out this document that has all the information that is on this current website, right? So then I say to it, okay, but now the thing is that obviously the data is old. It's old and crappy. So what I want to do is I want to reformat that, and I want to bring it into the 21st century. And I want to take the content and basically optimize it for conversion. In other words, that people will take the action that you want them to take on the website. So this is a very important part of this prompt, and about saying that it should be conversion rate optimized. So cool. Then it goes and it does all of that, and it structures out the content. Now I switch tools. So I would copy that. I close that. And then I would go into a tool called Lovable. Now Lovable is a great tool because with just a few words, you don't have to go this hardcore. You can be way more simple. You can literally create a website with one sentence. And what's cool is that it doesn't just create the website, but it also writes the code for it. And that's incredible, right? So it creates the whole project with one prompt, and it's runnable. So, and you have all the code here. You can take this code, you can sync it into GitHub, and then you can edit that code as well if you want to manually. It's incredible. So cool. So then this is the website that was created after I said, create a beautiful website with the following sections. Please create a tasteful green agricultural color. Speak to it like you'd speak to a designer. And then it must be beautiful and clean. Add images where necessary. Cool. So then this was the website that it created. I mean, incredible to create this with one prompt. But I didn't really. Oh, actually, it was the other side anyway. I didn't really like some of the parts of it. Yeah, this was the one. So let's look here what I did. So I first said, okay, so then it finds a linting error, like this was the first version that it built. And then you just click a button and say fix code. And then it takes that code and then it fixes it. It's quite incredible. And then what you can also do is, so this specific company, they had all of these other different ways that they allowed farmers to be able to analyze their webs, their data. And I wanted to display that on the home page. And so I just gave it a picture of them and I said, I want these to be displayed on the website. And then I just did a few other little tweaks and suggestions, just a couple other things. But the final result was this. Well, when it restores, give it a second. Any questions while we wait for this to load? Okay. Yes, I'm just a quiz. Yeah.
What is the sort of verbosity of the code that it generates? Because I've tried generating stuff with Gemini, and it often Anatode kind of provides a super long solution where I feel like it could do it in a much quicker way.
Yeah.
Like this, have you gone into each file?
It's reasonable. So I mean, we can look at it quickly. You can see how it's structured, but in general, I would say it uses what's called a shared CM, which is an amazing it's not a library, but it's a collection of components. The reason I say it's not a library is because you actually have to import the code for each component, rather than having one npm install that you then have to upgrade. It's just a much better way of handling components. So it has that as a base, and that is very powerful. And so then on top of that, it then is able to use those components to do better things. But I mean, it's not crazy. Look, it structures out the code that's reasonably well written. It's going to loop through those products. I mean, yes, I mean, sure, some things could be better, but all in all, I'd say it's pretty decent. When you go further down and you keep prompting, obviously the code files get bigger, but then Lovable will tell you, hey, your code file is getting a bit long. Do you want to refactor it? And then you can click a button and it refactors it. So yeah, pretty cool. Okay, so this was the final website that it came out with. I mean, pretty impressive website. And if you remember, I showed it what things I wanted to show that this product could do. And it was that screenshot, if you remember here. Where was that? Here. It took this and literally converted it into this, which is really impressive from an image. Yeah, so that's the first way. So basically the headlines are scrape it with Claude MCP, transform the data so that it's better for the AI to consume, and then Lovable to build it. Cool. All right, so let's go into the next one. This one is really about Claude MCP again, but I want to highlight something, and that's really important here. AI is getting so good that it's going to expose security vulnerabilities that you thought no one of you would find, and does it in a very powerful way. So the startup that I founded is called Find Homes, and basically we want to help people find their homes more efficiently, effectively, and have all the data that they need to be able to make their decision. As part of that, let me just remember my notes. Yeah, so as part of that, one of the things that I wanted to do was to get all the plot information from the Surveyor General's website about okay, how let me see the coordinates of the plots, right? So what I did was, again, a very simple thing. This one. Yeah, so I gave it the Surveyor General website, Surveyor General's website, which is this link here, and it has this thing on it. And I said, so this is a great prompt that I just want to highlight to everybody who wants to use this. You first give Claude context of the website, and then you ask it to do it more advanced things. It's like, you don't tell a developer, hey, build this site that has absolutely everything. You would just never do that because they'll get confused. They won't get the vision. You give it in pieces. You give it in stages. And if you want to use this tool, first ask it, how is this website built? Because it gets at the general context, and then from there it will make decisions. So I ask it to do that, and then it goes and it says, okay, cool, it's built with these tools. Let me just open the link. So, yeah, sure. I will. Thank you. So this is basically what the website looks like. Oh, goodness. So you can see here's like plot information, right? It has the coordinates, right? And this is the information that I'm most interested in. I know nothing about maps, mind you, but I know that I want this data. So if we, I was on web, right? Where was I? Okay. So I will zoom for you. Cool, is that enough? Okay, so this is that first prompt, right? And then Claude will go in and it will navigate the website. And then here and there, I would also help it navigate to the right spaces because it's like in that browser window and it's doing its thing. So then I told it, if you zoom right in, you'll see that there are land plot boundaries. I'd like you to scrape and collect this information. Can you find a way to do this? So then it goes around, it clicks around, and what's crazy is that it will basically, so when you do this in your browser, no, not that, sorry. When you do this in your browser, you have this place called the console. And what Claude is able to do is it's able to write code that will execute in the context of the website, right? So, and it will be able to interact with your website via JavaScript that it itself is writing. So it's able to now call endpoints on your website that are basically have the domain, have the everything that you need, basically, to be able to call it. So it's able to really dissect the website in a very powerful way. And here you can see how it's getting the layer information and that it will then print it out. So that's what's happening in each of these kinds of steps. It's able to run stuff and figure stuff out. So here it can monitor your the network requests of the website, so it can actually identify which network requests are doing what. And again, remember, I only wrote 2 prompts, right? So then sometimes the context gets too large, or like Claude will stop you, and then you just write continue, and then it will continue. So then basically, after all of that, it's able to figure out that the base URL is that, and that there's certain things. And now it's writing the code that I can then execute on my own to be able to get all of this information. And it's just that powerful. Okay. And then it basically said, where was it? Yeah. So then from there, what I did was I switched over to running that data. So I create a little node project, and then I run that code, right? So you can very easily do this up. I have in some of my files, I have a lot of different websites that I'm doing this. This is like the age of scripts, right? So if you want to do stuff, just write a little project, doesn't matter the standards, just get it working. So then if I run this, it then outputs all of these folders, which contain all the information, which is about 2 gigs worth of data. I can't imagine how else I would have found this data. And so to prove to you that it actually works, let me remember which one it was. 53. Cool. So I'm going to take that. And then this is just like a very cool tool that you can use to view these types of files. It's just pasting because it's a huge file. So there you have it. Then this is the thing for Rondebosch. And you can see basically every person's house and the boundaries of it. So what does this mean? This means that you can basically, like, any endpoints that your website can call are now no longer safe. So basically what this means is that you should expect that anybody can call endpoints that you have client side. So you probably want to consider, in cases where you want to make it a little bit more difficult, to rather do a server-side rendering, because then they at least have to build another scraper to be able to extract the information. They can't just get data out. So that's, again, word of caution. These tools are freely available. If you are doing stuff that is unsafe, it's not going to be safe for long. Okay. How am I doing on time? Good? Yeah. All right. Any questions on this one before I move on and blow people's minds further?
It's a grammar question. What happens when, I've noticed with Claude, it sometimes goes down like a rabbit hole. And then how do you get out of that once you're in that? So you've now got all this information, it's made your websites and all of that, but now it's gone down this rabbit hole. Do you restart, or how do you get it back on track?
Yeah, I'll repeat it. So the question is from Dom was, Claude can go down rabbit holes, and sometimes you don't want it to go down a specific rabbit hole because it's tried to go a certain way. My question is, one, where are you? Are you in Cursor? Are you in Claude itself? Where Claude itself? Okay. Then I would say maybe you should try to think about editing the prompt, right? And rerunning it basically. So like, I'll give you an example. Just before this meeting, I was trying to do the same thing with Axaco's website, where I was basically, go to here. So here I was like, basically, okay, I want to scrape their content, but then I realized, okay, well, the thing is that it wasn't always showing the links, for example, for stuff. So then I just changed the prompt. So it wasn't like showing me like links to their case studies, for example, in the output. So then I just kind of iterate on it. It's not perfect, but I guess like you just got to re-engineer the prompt until you find one that works, would be how I would handle it. But especially with MCP, I'm just surprised how good it is at just handling stuff with even vague prompts, because it's just like able to understand your intent. Yeah. I don't know if it answered your question, but I hope it did. Cool. Okay. One more and then we'll move on. Yeah.
Just a quick one. Why did you use Playwright instead of Puppeteer?
Honestly, I started using Playwright. I found that it was working. And then I stuck with it. I did try Puppeteer, but I never got it really working. I got it working once, but it just didn't perform as well as I would like. I know some people online have said like Puppeteer's better. Just haven't spent the time to give it a second chance. Yeah, cool. All right, there'll be time at the end to get to questions. Yeah. Okay. So number 3. So let's go back to the Prezo. Yes. Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to do for Find Homes was to be able to tell people which suburbs are windier than others. And that is a pretty tough task to do, because most weather predictions are based at the 5-kilometer scale and not the 1-kilometer scale. So basically I had to create a model that would be able to tell at this low level resolution that the wind is flowing like this. And Cape Town is very difficult to model wind because it has a huge mountain in the way. If you look at any of the websites like Windy or others, they don't actually show you that the wind is influenced at all by the mountain, but it is. And the example I'll give you is, everybody says Vredehuk is the windiest suburb. The question is why? because if you have Devil's Peak here, Fred Oak is over here, the main wind direction in summer is coming here. And actually what that means is that it should have shadow of the wind. But for various reasons, the wind comes up over the mountain, it's funneled, it goes faster, it goes over the top, and it whips around through Woodstock, and it creates a lot of turbulence in Fred Oak. And it's actually the turbulence that makes it so uncomfortable, not the fact that it's windy. But basically, I wanted to be able to model this kind of stuff and to be able to tell which properties are windier than others. Okay, long story. Sorry. But the context is useful. So what did I do first? So, yeah, let's go. Yeah. So the first thing that I did was that, again, remember, you want to give your AI context and then tell it to go and implement, right? So that's always like a very good pattern. Context first, get it to gather the information, and then do stuff. So what I did is that I fortunately did speak to a friend who knew some stuff about weather. And he gave me like ideas like computational fluid dynamics and stuff like that. But basically, I just told it, go out and research and tell me what are the different machine learning tools that are available for weather, and others. And then basically it went out, it created a research plan. I also did the same thing with OpenAI. And then it basically created this huge document, which is 38 pages long, a really long document. But the most important part here is this table here, because it basically compares the different approaches to figuring out what is the weather between two weather stations, because we can't have a weather station in every suburb. So there was like, geostatistical, machine learning, and, others. And then I like went in here and I was like, okay, well, I don't have a GPU because, hey, we don't have GPUs in Africa. And like, what is the relative cost of training as well? Because training cost means I need a GPU. So basically the way that I chose it was, I want to do this approach. Great. So after doing that, I exported this to a doc. And an important thing to know about Gemini 2.5 is that it has, I think, 1 million token context window, which means that it can hold a lot of information in its brain, and you should really leverage it for that. So with the 38-page document, that's not going to fill it up, but the code generation is going to fill it up. Okay. So that's what I did. I took this doc, and then this is what I did here. So this was a roundabout way to do it, but I think it was interesting. So here I said I would like to pursue this. Then I'd like to pursue that. Plan first, right? Because you always want to tell the code when it's especially something huge, you want it to plan first, right? And then build the code. So context, plan, and then execute phase by phase. And you want to basically step it through the solution. And then tell me the format of the data. I really want you to propose an innovative approach and push the boundaries. Sometimes adding this fluff gets you better results. So like, to give it permission to basically really go for it. Okay, so then basically it went through and then it created like, a bit of a document, a little bit of code. And then I said to it, I don't know, this might have been a mistake, but I said, you're a world-class software developer. I now want you to build out the solution. Some people say that you should tell the AI to be a specific persona. I find mixed results. But yeah, please write readable code that fulfills the requirements. Okay, cool. Then if I like go through this very carefully, yeah, okay. Basically it was like telling me like to do, but it was like hesitant, basically, if you read some of it. And it was apprehensive. So I said, I understand you're apprehensive, but go for it anyway. And this is when I thought I would use this code. And then it kind of went for it, right? And then it did some thinking, it wrote the code. Okay, but now I have the code here. And here you have to like say, please continue, because sometimes it runs out of stuff. And then it continues. But again, the code is here. It's not nicely structured into files. It's like all over the place. So I was lucky enough to attend like a seminar from Anthropic recently about their Claude Code tool, and like they basically said a little bit more about how to use it. So I was like, okay, well, I can't really write Python. Sometimes I can, but it's not my. I had this sticker, but yeah, I'm not good at it. So basically, I wanted then to be able to use all the work I'd done here to then use Claude to write the code. So I said, please write a requirements doc that describes the solution you have architected and coded. So then it wrote that out, right, based on the code, right, and all of everything else that had come before it. And then I thought, okay, well, Claude is not going to be able to add all of this, right? Again, context, right? You got to think about things in bite sizes. You want it to focus down and actually be able to handle the pieces that you're giving it. So then I said, I want you to break this code up into 3 phases and split up the requirements. Please be concise and do not miss any details or nuances. Okay. So then it broke it up into the 3 phases. Now I have phases that I can use, right? Again, I don't know really much about this, but I know how to package the data or the information. So then I switch over to Claude Code. And unfortunately, because Claude Code runs in the terminal, I am not able to show you how I went through that. But basically, after a little bit of tweaking and stuff like that, within about 3 hours of having done this work, I had something that was incredible. So here's all the code. And again, I wrote none of this code. Claude wrote it all. So yes, can I finish the point? And then I'll come for questions. So here it is. You can see it's broken into phases. And the nice thing with Claude is that it can run stuff and it can look at stuff and it can, think about stuff and it can run loops of itself, right? Because it's agentic. And it can figure stuff out and check if it's making mistakes or not. But all of this is to say, okay, but where are the results? And then you can see here, I created an AMD file, but just to make it easier on the eye, let's have a look. So here's basically the data input. Again, this data, it found itself and it interpreted itself. I didn't give it any data to create the models. So it's gone and created this weather map where it has wind direction and wind speed and also elevation data. Because again, I wanted to focus on understanding the funneling of the mountain in this case. So it has that input data, and then basically it has some like graphs that basically talk about the effects that different things have, like the elevation. So the height of the mountain has an effect on the wind, the Venturi effect. So that's the funneling effect. And then the thermal effects are what's the temperature at that specific station. And understanding that, and then like some loss graphs that I don't know anything about. But basically, okay, so this is phase 1. Phase 1 was where I ran the model without any physics constraints. So it doesn't know about how wind funnels, it doesn't know about temperature, it doesn't know how these things affect the data, but it's trying to interpret it. And you can see all the dots are the different stations that I put onto the report, and then it tries to interpret what the weather is around it. Then here we then added in basic physics constraints, right? So it understands a bit more of the mountain and maybe the effect the mountain has. And you can see on this axis here, it's the graph wind speed. The color indicates the wind speed, and the dot also says the wind speed. And then here is where it has much more nuanced physics. So here, basically, that's a little bit better, but the real great one is this one here, where it's basically showing that at high temperature, at high elevations, this is where the wind speed is really fast, right? And down right on the valley surface, it's a bit slower, but just as you go up, and because the base station doesn't account for how much height it is, anyway, long story short, it's a great model. I had a doctor of weather look over this, and he was impressed by the results. And this was all done without me writing code or lifting a finger, but just using clever prompting techniques. I was blown away that I was able to achieve this. Cool. that's pretty much the talk.